a loss for society when you think that there are people who could be censors of anything. And the MPAA is one of the last vestiges of a censorship system.
After you watch this, you're gonna go get your popcorn out of the microwave and talk about what I say. And you'll forget me by the end of this.
When we first started shooting Gunner Palace in Baghdad, the soldiers in the palace, all that they asked was that I tell it like it is. You know, tell the people what our life is like. You know, uncensored, unfiltered, you know, this is their day-to-day, this is their life. After we finished editing Gunner Palace, we submitted it for a rating from the MPAA. And I think about 6 weeks later, the rating came back, and it was an R. It was for language and drug use.
We'll fuck them motherfuckers up, man.
You know, these are soldiers in a war zone. Like, what do you expect? They're gonna say, oh, darn, you know, a mortar almost landed on me. This is not fiction. This is reality. These are real soldiers. They're living in a war zone. The language is not gratuitous. You know, we're not instructing people to bleed off these obscenities. You know, this is just their life. And it's also not scripted.
Smoking weed, can't smoke in the army. Nigga trying to harm me, bomb me, don't give a fuck. Vietnam putting it down.
Joan Graves' take on this was rules are rules. And there's no way, and you're going to get a PG-13, you know, gentlemen, you're simply, you know, you're wasting our time. She also pointed out that if they did rate a film like ours, PG-13, that they would hear from pressure groups. They would start getting calls, they would start getting letters. And I found this really revealing. It didn't seem so much that it's about representing the majority opinion of America. It seems more about kind of bowing to pressure.
The worst thing that could happen, well, if you had diarrhea right now, that would probably suck pretty fucking bad.
This is the language that's spoken. Yeah, it's horrible. Yes, we may not agree with it. We might even be disgusted by it. But when the Americans liberated Buchenwald and they saw these images, you know, these heaps of people, is that PG? Is that PG-13? Is that R? People need to see that. When the little girl is running down the road in South Vietnam, you know, burnt by napalm, and she's naked. Is that PG? Is that PG-13? Is it R? I mean, you can't rate reality. And if you can't deal with it, then don't send people to war.
Put it on the camp. Those people have it. We don't. Over.
The military and the film studios have colluded for more than 50 years. Anytime filmmakers want military assets, ships or tanks or planes, they have to give the Pentagon 5 copies of their script. If there's anything in the script that's negative, the Pentagon wants them to take it out, and so they negotiate and take out any war crimes or foul language or drinking, anything that would make the military look bad. And then after the agreement is made, the military sends a minder onto the set when the film is being shot to make sure it's shot just the way they agreed. And then once the film is completed, it has to be shown to the Pentagon admirals and generals before it's shown to the public. Dozens of films have not been made because they couldn't get military assistance. So people have no idea what they're not seeing. Jack Valenti knew what was going on. He was complicit in it. He was part of it. You know, it's just a subtle form of brainwashing, I believe, that 50 years of the constant drumbeat of military is good, American soldiers are heroic and valiant, I think has made the American people more warlike over the last 50 years.
You know, I think we need to step back for a second and wonder sort of what all this means, that 2 or 3 companies completely control the information in our country. And when we think about censorship, what's being censored are scenes in movies, which mean nothing to these people. And of course, what's not being regulated is the ways in which these corporations control the flow of information in the recording industry, in the film industry, TV industry, radio, press, everything.
And by the time it's completed, and we have three, maybe two companies that essentially own access to our culture, it'll be impossible to break up because the political power of those companies will be so massive, and they will be willing to spend extraordinary amounts to protect their cartel position, that no government will be strong enough to stand up to them.
I want to pay particular gratitude to the members of Congress who are here today. It pleases me greatly that you've come, and it pleases me even more that you come from both sides of the aisle. I was struck with Ted Stevens. I've never heard that before, but I like to claim that, Ted, when you said he has friends on both sides of the aisle, but he doesn't know about an aisle. I like that.
No doubt there's a problem with piracy. But we've got to make sure that we don't spray DDT to kill a gnat. And that's what I think is happening here. We're not thinking about the cultural, environmental consequences from this extraordinary war, a war which Jack Valenti calls his own, quote, terrorist war against the, quote, pirates. Terrorist war? Who are the terrorists here? Our children. We're talking about our children as terrorists.
The people who are who are pirates, at least in the American imaginary, are like 17-year-old boys who are clever enough to figure out a way to do it. They're also Hollywood's best customers, still. So even though they're pirating information, they're still going to a whole lot of movies, still buying a whole lot of DVDs, buying soundtracks. So part of me doesn't feel tremendously sorry for huge corporations that make ridiculous profits, maybe losing a little bit of profits to this sort of network that actually ultimately may end up helping them, because it just creates this sort of constant exchange about their movies that didn't exist before.
The MPAA has a very powerful hold on the culture, and the licensing system that they have, the appeals board and the ratings is just part of it. I mean, they are a group that ought to have its power whittled down.
You are dealing with a very powerful cultural censorship group that doesn't want to be disempowered. And if you made those names public, you might disempower them.
Is there any other review group that you can think of in this country, in any industry besides the CIA, that is secret, that operates in secrecy?
Wow. No.
If you're going to take on that type of a public policy role for American culture, then I don't think that you should be hiding in a veil of secrecy. I know the MPAA has said they're afraid that these people will be under pressure, but there are many people that have judgments, important judgments about things that are under pressure or influenced. I mean, judges or prosecutors or, school officials, but they all operate in the public sphere, and I think these people should as well.